I just love what you're talking about the way that it was springtime. So I'm excited about spring. And we are live, people. Good morning and welcome to another edition of our speaker series, Voices of Impact. And this is brought to you by BeSpoken Collective. Voices of Impact is a dynamic speaker series that amplifies the stories, insights, and experiences of top notch leaders who are driving meaningful change in their industries and communities. Each session highlights authentic voices making an impact through leadership, inclusion, innovation, and purpose. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome as our speaker today, Shauna Van Mourik. Thank you all for joining us today. We will make time for questions at the end. With that, I will hand it over to the wonderful Shauna.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Oh my goodness, this is exciting. And I think the thing that excites me most is the fact that I am going to be able to talk to all of you as not only leaders in your space, but impact makers. Because everyone who's here today is aspiring to change the world for the better in your own small way. But how do we do that? How do we actively create change, meaningful change, from a place of authenticity that's going to feel good and fulfilling at the same time? This is a really complex idea. A lot of people stop at that idea, at that inclination, because they don't know what to do next. I want to make a difference. I want to see the world be what it could be, even if it's just the world in my little bubble. But how do I do that? Who am I to do that? Well, as Andrew said, I am Shauna Van Mourik, and I am a brand and marketing strategist. I help women therapists, coaches, and service-based professionals to show up in the world in a way that actually matters. We throw out the outdated, soul-sucking branding and marketing advice that we've all had shoved down our throats, and we embrace a new era. We embrace a space where branding and marketing doesn't have to feel icky, and in fact, it can be leveraged in a way that actually drives results, not only for our businesses. If some of you are entrepreneurs, this is going to really strike a chord with you when it comes to the tactical, practical aspects that we're going to discuss in a little while. But it's also going to be for those who are leaders in the corporate space, leaders in their communities, leaders who are aspiring to shake things up a little bit. And we're going to take a look at this from the point of view of branding and marketing. To start, I want to remind you all that whether you know it or not, you are indeed a leader. You are a role model. You're influencing the people around you just by being yourself. And I know that sounds like a stretch. I know a lot of you just saw the back of your head, but let's be real. People are watching. Maybe not directly, maybe not in like the, but they're watching. They're seeing how the world is moving around them. And if you're somebody who has taken up the role of some sort of influencer, business person, as a parent, as a volunteer, then people are watching. And you actually make their lives feel more cohesive and meaningful by being intentional about how you show up. What does this mean? This means that you need to think about yourself as more than just Sally or Bob or Amira. You know, you're a brand. And I don't want you to think about curating yourself as a brand, because that's not where authenticity lives. I want you to think about your brand as a personal brand rooted in the impact you want to make, so that you are values aligned, so that your actions actually take you to where you want to be in a way that those who are watching can understand, connect the dots, and maybe even just copy a little bit on their own journey as they learn to be leaders in their own right. These are so important. These little steps and how we influence others, so important. And they help you to make an impact. That impact can be both internal and external. Internally, let's look at it in a bit of a positive greedy light, okay? I know we hear the word greed and we think, yuck, we don't want to be greedy, but let's be real. We do need to put certain parts of ourselves and our lives first. How can I make a positive impact on those who need extra supports in the education system or in the food system if I'm not earning enough money myself to give forth? I need to be greedy first, in such that I need to build my wealth. I need to build my knowledge wealth, my financial wealth, my health wealth. I need to be able to be present within that space. And the only way I can do that is by putting myself first, which some people can call greedy. But we're going to look at that with a good light rather than a negative one today. In order to do that, that internal impact looks like making sure that your lead generation for your business is exceptional and that your systems and operations can support it. That way you can increase your fees. That way you can increase your bottom line revenue. That way you can allocate your budgets and your finances in a way that actually matters, that actually makes a difference for yourself, for your team, and for the world around you. Now, if you're in the corporate space, this might look a little bit different. In this space, you might be thinking more along the lines of, how can I actually make myself rise in the rankings in such a way that I get heard? And if I get heard, my team gets heard. I can stand in my values and petition for the things that matter. I recently had a conversation with someone who's soon going to be on my own podcast, Marketing Rebels. And she was talking about how a small petition by her influenced the take-home paycheck of all of the people in her team, because she was able to stand tall in her own values, to take pride in what she does, and to really push for what she believes matters. And the only way she was able to do that was to rise in the rankings, establish herself as an authority, which might be seen as greedy, but she was able to make a positive impact on everyone else. Externally, this is where we start to really see the ripple. This is where we see change. And that change is so, I can feel it in my belly. When you start seeing that change, experiencing that change, knowing that you were the cause of that ripple, feels so empowering and fulfilling for yourself, let alone the people who are also being inspired by your actions. My grandmother, she's in her 90th year at the time of this recording, and she told me a really good message that I've just clung to because I think it's so, so important. People forget. When you're helping people, it feels good both ways. They get that help, and you get that release of, I helped somebody. It feels great. And remember that it's two sides of the same coin. So if you need help with anything, your personal branding, your marketing, your mindset, your chores at home, parenting, life in general, it can be hard. Ask for help. Because guess what? You're going to feel better. And the person helping wants to help because they feel that joy too. Now, that was just my little side story because I love my grandma, and I do believe that we should all ask for help whenever we can. I want to break this down into more of a tactical, practical conversation, though, because everything I've spoken about so far, I could see you saying, okay, Shauna, sure, that seems very idealistic. That seems very like, change the world. I get it. I know. I live in reality, guys. I'm here with you. So how do we make this happen from that place of reality? How do we achieve those big vision goals while keeping our feet rooted to the ground? When day to day gets hard, when you have these responsibilities, how do we actually refine our personal brand, our professional brand, and then create a plan of execution so that that impact actually happens? Whoa, hold on, Shauna, that sounds like a big trip. It's not a small trip, but it's also not a small impact either. So As leaders, we need to learn how to brand ourselves and market ourselves effectively so that not only does that impact happen, but we also preserve our well-being. We need this to be sustainable. Flash in the pan results, they're great, but they're very short-term. Short-term positive results, I'm not gonna belittle them because it's lovely, but I know you want more. I know you want more. So how do we make that happen? When it comes to putting yourself out in the world in the marketing sense, after you've refined who you are, looked at your core values, looked at who's around you and how you want to impact them, and that's a personal journey, and that journey takes a long time. And myself and many of the people around me actually offer services to help guide you through that journey. If you need any introductions, please tell me. I'm a connector, and I love to see people thrive and grow. Once you find that space where you feel pretty dang aligned with who you are and what it means to be you, either personally and or professionally as an entrepreneur, as a corporate career person, once you've gotten that space, how the heck do I show up? Because it's more than, and I know you and I both know, it's more than just posting an inspirational quote or raising your hand in a meeting. Although those things are interesting and they have their place, that's not necessarily going to be your most strategic solution. So I'm going to teach you about a couple of things that I think will make a difference in how you think about marketing. The first thing I want to talk to you about is this concept of a Venn diagram. And I hope you know what that means. There are two different circles that overlap. I will show you with my hands. Imagine these are two little circles because I have small hands, and they overlap here. They have a spot here in the middle that overlaps. And I will tell you, one side is who you are, your brand, what it means to be you, what you value, what you enjoy doing, what skill sets set you apart, things that light you up. On the other hand, this is where your ideal audience lives. This is where the people you want to influence lives. This is their interests, their desires, their goals, their dreams, the things that matter to them and what they like to consume and how they like to consume them, how they live their lives. And where these two things intersect, that overlap, that's where you need to show up. If that's an appropriate place to share an inspirational quote, then by all means, go ahead. More likely than not, there's more depth. So you need to consider, what does it mean to show up in that overlap space where you can feel like you're shining your brightest and where they are ready and willing to receive everything that you're putting out into the world. Whether it's in a boardroom, on social media, on a podcast or recording, you get to choose in the end. But making sure that it lives in that overlap will really make a difference for you. The other thing I wanted to talk about is this plan that I mentioned. A lot of people think of plan and strategy in the branding and marketing space, and they think of a cage. No, thank you. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur. I will not be caged, and I will not allow you to be caged either. Having a strategy or a plan that works for you within your lifestyle, within the life that you want to live, so that you can still garden, enjoy the sun's rays, so you can play with your kids, go to squash practice or pickleball, I think is the big thing right now. All of those things, they matter and they fuel you. Why would you plan a strategy that doesn't allow for that? The plan or the strategy is simply for consistency, to reduce choice overwhelm, to make sure that you have a steady cadence and an aligned messaging that is reasonably predictable and has the desired effect. So instead of that, I keep going back to that quote because I feel like that was such a huge thing where people would just post an empowering quote by Albert Einstein, whether it was actually by him or not. We need to make sure that you're actually creating an alignment. We need to make sure that the strategy will lead to your goal. That people who read or see an action or a post, even a little bit, They'll know, yep, that's Sally. I know it. I know it because they've got a vibe, they've got a feeling. Also, they usually show up on Thursdays. I mean, all of these things matter. All of these things play into each other. And that strategy, when done properly, should allow for flexibility. What do I mean by that? Well, I'll tell you one thing. I was not working last week. Last week, for me, it was March break. At any given time during the week, I had at least 4 children in my house. One day, I had 8. Do you think I was recording or creating or working? No, I wasn't. But I was showing up because my plan allows for flexibility, because I have a plan in advance that allows for me to take vacations, for me to indulge in the things that I love. It also allows me to post whenever I want. So while I have this cadence, I'm not barred from posting when I'm out in the garden and I'm like, oh, I'm super excited because look at my tomato plant. It has gone berserk. I can take a snapshot. I can write a post when I want and post it. And it doesn't feel out of line with my cohesive strategy because I've created the plan in advance, because I know what's in alignment based on my brand and how I'm showing up. The last thing I kind of wanted to touch on here, and it's just us taking a full loop, and that's authenticity. That overlap that I talked about in the Venn diagram, that allows you to be authentic. Gives you a breath, because you don't have to do the stupid dance on TikTok unless you want to. Unless you want to. You don't have to wear the pantsuit in the office unless you want to. You don't have to be polished and professional all the time. I was told one time, and here's another beautiful story. For my podcast, I was told that during a little interim where there was recording, but we were done the recording, there's a little bit of time there that it still records a little bit. I was told to do the broadcaster smile while it waits. And I said, no, absolutely not. I felt like tour guide Barbie at the end of that Toy Story movie where she was saying, bye-bye now, bye-bye now, bye. Is everyone gone? Good. I didn't like that. That didn't feel authentic to me. So instead, when I know that there's going to be a little gap in time, I grab my coffee, my iced coffee with my little bee on it. It says be kind. I take a sip. Because I'm done recording. I'm just going to be myself. Now, I'm not going to swear. I'm not going to rip off my jacket and be like, I'm done with this. I'm going to be myself in a professional setting, but I'm going to be relaxed and I'm just going to move on. I'm not going to pretend to be any more than, okay, well, we're done. That was lovely. Right? I'm allowed to be authentic. I'm allowed to step into that while serving the people in a way that they enjoy being served. And for me right now, it's podcasting. The other part of that really is understanding that you're the boss. And this does, and trust me, this does belong in authenticity. Because so many of you are belittling your ability as an authentic human being, as who you truly are. So many of you are belittling that and avoiding the very real fact that that authentic part of you is what's going to create the biggest impact as a leader, as a CEO, and as a decision maker. Never mind as an action taker. So when you're able to really foster that authentic you, when you're really able to step into that authentic power and become comfortably confident in who you are, that's where the magic starts. And as I said, we've come full circle. So if you want to actually step into your thought leadership, impacting the world with a spark that can only come from you, your soul, and your aspirations, then developing that personal brand and letting it shine in a professional light, finding the middle ground between what you love and what people want to hear, what your people want to hear, and creating a plan of action that allows for consistency while remaining flexible, that's going to give you the chance to really make the internal and external impact that could quite possibly change the world. So with that, I would love nothing more than to ask all of you if you have any questions about some of the crazy notions I've put out there. And if Andrew wanted to ask me a few things too, because I'm an open book, not a gatekeeper.
Shauna, all I got to say is once again, you brought it like usual. I loved everything that you'd said there. I took many, many notes as of things that you had said. One thing that I do want to ask you, your opinion, and I want you to share it with everybody here today, is you mentioned standing tall in her own values. So, as a leader, or as leaders, because there are some leaders that are listening here today, how can we as leaders stand tall in our values to translate it into our marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm going to give you both opinion and strategy here, because it is my opinion that we shouldn't be I want to be diplomatic here. Don't make yourself less than what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said that about the authenticity bit, but also just don't assume that your opinions don't matter. Don't assume that if you feel strongly about something, it should be watered down because of your audience.
Right.
If you feel strongly about something and you hesitate to share it, I'm willing to bet money that there are others in that room who want to share that same opinion, but they're scared. Mm-hmm. But you're a leader. You're a leader. You need to say the things that matter. And what that means is that if your value is such that, like one of my values is to lead with kindness. What does that mean? There is no place for hate here. So if I hear somebody or see somebody acting on hate, not leading with kindness, I'm going to say something, even if the rest of the room is silent, because I know that there's somebody else in that room who's thinking the same thing, but they're too nervous to say it. They haven't quite stepped into their authentic power. They haven't quite stepped into those values in such a way that they can confidently say, that wasn't funny, man. That's where my opinion and my strategy comes, is just to refine those values, find out what you truly stand for, and freaking stand up for it as a leader. And hey, and I'm going to add too, I don't care if you're posting on social media and going, well, I don't know if I should share this on social media. If you're standing up for what is right, if you're standing in your values, if you are your brand, if you are the person who is executing on everything in your business, you can share it. Now, it's a different story if you're working in corporate and you're under a corporate name. You need to be a little bit more careful about how you show up there. But that doesn't mean that you can't stand up for what is right with a diplomatic approach. Don't water yourself down. Stand true in what you have to say, what you believe in as a leader, as a thought leader, and as an impact maker. I hope that answers your question.
It certainly does. It certainly does. And it totally makes sense to me. And I'm sure that it's making sense to everybody that's listening here today. Shauna, I am so lucky to know you and to be a connection of yours. But to the people who are checking us out today, how do they get a hold of you? How do they reach out to you? How do they have a conversation like this and many others with you? Where's the best places to do that?
What's pretty cool is that I'm almost everywhere. But I also have a website right now. Let me remember, because I'm switching some things in my back end system. It is active, but it's not like an official website yet. So you can still go there and find all of my contact information. It's www.shaunaleigh.com. That's SHAUNALEIGH.com. You'll find all of my connection information there. You can also just like, we're here. I believe we're streaming to LinkedIn. Click on my name and shoot me a message, man. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I've been around for well over a decade and I will chat with you. I don't hold myself so high as to be like, oh no, I can't possibly say hello to a friend. No, I'm here. Like, reach out, say hello. I won't bite. At least not hard.
Oh my God. You are unbelievable. Shauna, I want to take the time to thank you for coming on today. I asked you at the beginning to, before we even started taping today, I asked you if you could bring it. You could bring your Shauna today, and you brought it today, like always. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate everything that you do. I appreciate our connection. Again, you are just such an awesome human, and just so privileged to know you.
You're making me blush. And hey, you know what? It goes both ways, because the types of people who you affiliate yourself with and the organizations that you've been able to be a part of have absolutely warmed my heart and given me the opportunity to join you in making that positive impact. And this is where we can all get together, collaborate, and actually live our truths and make the impact that we're meant to make. So reach out. Andrew and I are both always available, and all the people that you're connected with, Andrew, I know are profound influencers who are ready to make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm. And they absolutely are. On behalf of myself and our guest speaker today, Shauna Van Mourik, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We hope that you'll join us next time as we're joined by our guest speaker, Sam Malone Dinicola. Until next time, be safe. And remember, everyone, when we lead with heart, impact follows.